What's going on, guys? It's Zach back with another video. I apologize because I have the windows open, so there are a lot of loud bird noises.
The birds are acting up today.
We're gonna jump into this video. This is a highly requested topic that I've been getting a lot recently, which is how did I specifically manifest my specific people? Now, I have two very specific successes that I've had in my life with manifesting specific people. Now, both of these people were people that I was in a intimate relationship with that we broke up, and then I was able to use these concepts to get them back. And so I'm gonna share these stories, and I'm also gonna share some reflections on failures that I've had. I do have one failure that is pretty big in my life, and it was a quote-unquote failure that I had while trying to specifically manifest as my person, right? And so I'm also gonna share that story with you guys just because I think it helps dimensionalize the concepts. It helps to better understand my processes and where I went wrong and where you guys can make adjustments in the future. The other reason that I'm making this video is because I think it really helps to reflect on these things. For me, it helps me to grow. It helps me to learn more in depth as I explain the story out loud, and it's going to help me to grow and to realize what I can do better in the future. And so that's part of the other reason that I've decided, you know what, hell, I'm going to make this video. This video probably is going to end up being pretty long, but I apologize for that. I think that it can still be really valuable for you guys, and so I do hope you watch it all the way through. Before I get started, I do want to let you guys know that I do offer one-on-one coaching. I also have a course that's coming out very soon, hopefully, and so all of that is going to be in the description. If you have any questions, if that's something that's interesting to you, go ahead, check it out in the description. I'd love to talk to you guys more one-on-one. So to start out with the first story, I was dating a girl from the age of, I think, 16 until about 18, and we had met in middle school. We'd been friends for a really long time, and eventually there was a series of events that led to us ending up together in a relationship. Now, looking back, I realized, we were really young, and a lot of the issues that we had came with youth and came with immaturity on both of our ends. But the reason that the relationship ultimately ended when we graduated from high school, we broke up, I think, like a couple months after we both graduated from high school. And really the reason was because I was really insecure. I couldn't handle the fact that she was going to school, college, about 600-700 miles away from where we lived. We live in Maryland, and she was ending up going to school in Florida. And so I kind of had this mental collapse, really. Like, I just felt like I wasn't going to be able to maintain a relationship where we weren't both in the same area. And so she traveled to Florida. I decided that I was going to go to Maine and do some farming, which is a really weird experience. I have a video on that if you want to check it out earlier in my channel. It's called My Experience as a Vegan Dairy Farmer. But ultimately what ended up happening was she went to Florida, and just a couple months later, I broke up with her. This was really challenging. We did stay in somewhat good communication for a while, but eventually we did kind of have to just separate communication. Now, over the years, we did stay friends, and we stayed in good contact, and she remained one of the best friends that I had, and it was clear that we would see each other once in a while. One time I actually went to Florida and saw her there, but it was clear that there was this tension, and especially within me, I felt that I still really wanted to be with this person. And now this first manifestation story is not really intentional. I didn't intend using these techniques. That was kind of clickbait at the beginning. I didn't necessarily mean to use these techniques to manifest her back. However, what ended up happening was I'd kind of let the relationship go after a while. It wasn't, after we broke up, it wasn't like I was super intentional about getting her back. I didn't look into anything. I didn't learn about manifestation. I just kind of was like, well, this is how things go. She went to Florida, I'm here. I couldn't really be in a relationship where somebody's so far away from me. And so I decided, just to kind of let things go and allow just the friendship to remain. And so we did remain friends. And what happened, though, was that after about 2 years of just being friends, I had been fiddling around in other relationships. I'm sure she had been too. I know she had been. And what happened was, one day I kind of came to this realization that, what I had been pursuing in other people was very physical, right? And so I was like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of just, hooking up with people and pursuing these very base, not very substantial encounters, right? And what I want is really a partner. What I want is a girlfriend and somebody who really is there for me and is a good supporter for me. And so what happened was, one day I was just walking around my campus, which was in Maryland, And I decided, you know what? I'm just gonna tell her. I'm just gonna tell her, like, I still have feelings, like, you know, even though we've just been friends all this time, like, I've felt this tension, this desire to be with you. And so I called her and I told her. And she reciprocated and she said, you know what, I've been feeling the same way. And she asked me, like, what do you want to do? And I was like, you know what, I don't really care about the distance. I don't care that, you know, we have all this separation. I want to be with you, and I'm willing to just, you know, maintain that understanding and that relationship, because I know I will see you. Like, your family still lives here. I have the capacity to come to Florida, like, maybe a couple times a year, and that's good enough for me. Like, as long as I know that you're my person. And it was crazy because on the phone, what she said to me was, well, I'm actually coming back to Maryland. I'm actually leaving this school and I'm going to come back to Maryland and just take classes at a community college until I can figure out another school to go to. But I just feel like this school really isn't jiving with me anymore, and I'm ready to come home. And so it was crazy because that intention of, you know what, it doesn't matter what the circumstances are, this is something that I'm willing to make work. And the universe, like, reciprocated with her saying, you know, I'm going to come back. And people could argue it's happenstance, but again, I just think that, to me, this reflects the power of that intention. And for me, the intention of the purity of the relationship beyond any kind of other factors, right? Beyond, like, the physical connection factor. It was that I desired this person's spirit, and so I was willing to do whatever it took to be in a relationship with this person. And, you know, the forces that be basically allowed it to happen in a much easier way. And so ultimately we ended up dating again for another almost 2 years. Now, here's what I'll say is that if I had known about these concepts, right, if I could go back and I could leverage these concepts, I would have really focused on changing my inner being a lot more. I would have focused on changing my concept of myself, and rather than just focusing on the relationship, I would have looked within myself and asked myself, first and foremost, what were the incompatibilities the first time? And it was really insecurity. It was really insecurity and control. Like, I was very controlling. There's a lot that I can't remember just because it was so long ago, and there's some other factors involved with the memory thing. But I was very controlling. I wasn't very understanding. You know, I didn't have as much compassion as I really do now. And so, you know, judgment, being way too critical, being a little bit too sharp rather than comforting, all these things I would go within myself and ask myself, you know, what is it within yourself that is causing these insecurities, these feelings like you can't just allow a person to be themselves, and you can't just allow them to, you know, vibrate at a high level and appreciate that from them. There's always more that you were looking for, and that's always, you know, what it was for me. I was always looking for more, and those same issues really started showing up again the second time that we dated, and ultimately I broke up with her again. There were a lot of reasons. I think, you know, on the surface it was, you know, I didn't like her appearance or something like that. Like, I didn't think she was confident enough, this and that. But ultimately what it was really my feeling like all of my judgments, all of my need to control is really bringing this person down. And it's really causing her to, you know, become a version of herself that she's not, really become a shell of herself. And I could see that happening. And, you know, while I was kind of a overly hard guy, like a little overly sharp, deep inside me, I really cared about her, and I couldn't bear to see that these expectations, these toxic expectations that I had, were really transforming into her into something that was damaging her. And so I broke up with her. And so, but what happened was that as time went on, you know, a couple months went by, and, you know, she was very understanding. We had it was hard at first, but our breakup kind of ended up becoming mutualistic. Like, she was like, you know, you really need to learn how to love, and you know, we both need to grow, and doing it separately is going to work, because trying to grow together has just been so challenging. And so by breaking up, we really did release that resistance. And so, but what ended up happening was, you know, over months, you know, it went from being very kind of mutual understanding to, I think she started to just take a lot of time and reflect on the relationship and realize that I had been very abusive. And so she became, you know, pretty cold to me over time. Like, she really stopped reaching out to me. We would talk sometimes, and we even, you know, hung out a couple times, but it became very clear that, you know, she's really mad, and she was really angry at me. And so I could see that I deep in my mind, I had this expectation that we would get back together again. Yet I could see all of a sudden that here's now this person that over the years has been like the rock in my life is now moving on and is really ready to, you know, turn a new page and start over and experience other people that she doesn't have a lot of baggage with, and she doesn't have all this history knowing that, hey, this guy has really taken a lot of time in tearing me down. And so I started to see that, and it freaked me out. In fact, it destroyed me. And so I panicked. All of a sudden the true reality of a breakup like really hit me, and I was just broken for, you know, weeks on end. And that's really when I discovered the principles of manifestation, and I put them into action. And while it did better my life overall, I think I experienced what a lot of people experience at the beginning of the SP manifestation process, which is that you're trying so much. You're just like, oh man, I can visualize, I can affirm, I can believe and see. And sometimes what the best thing that you can do is, especially when you're overwhelmed with emotion like that, is really just let it go. Is just like, first and foremost, practice completely separating the energy. And I didn't do that at all. And I was so addicted, and I was so, you know, pushy and attached that I ended up making things so bad, like so bad, that I ended up like completely letting go. And in this situation, by letting go, I mean intending on something else completely. I don't think that by letting go you can ever really divert from the track of getting what you want. So say, for example, I'm intending on getting a specific person, and I practice the art of letting go, right? I'm not inviting other things into my life. I'm still intending on getting this person. I'm just saying that I am not so stuck to that energy that I am, you know, clenching my fists and not allowing new things to come in. I think that our conscious mind only has a certain amount of possibilities that we can conceive of, whereas the infinite potential, right, the infinite mind, the superconscious mind, can see infinite potential. And so in this situation, I mean intending on something else. I ultimately kind of decided that it was just too hard for me. The thought process was just too challenging. Navigating the little interactions that we would have was just too challenging for me. And so I ultimately ended up practicing a Bob Proctor technique, which is to kind of draw a circle and then create these little arms that basically talk about all the different characteristics that I wanted in another person. And so that's what I ended up doing. And so just to reiterate, what I really thought was the failure was the obsessive thoughts. It was the not having true faith in the outcome, right? Like every time I would script, I would visualize, and then little things would happen that for somebody on the outside, they might have looked at those little events and said, well, you did it correctly, you intended, and now you're seeing bits of communication. And based on my beliefs, it would have required significant healing. It would have required significant conversation between the two of us that was, you know, healing conversation that would have led to an outcome of, you know, being together again. And those kinds of things were happening. I mean, we did hang out multiple times. We did talk on a regular, you know, a semi-regular basis, and the conversations were leading to a positive point. However, what was happening was my own internal fear, right? My intensity, as I would call it to some degree, but that intensity tied to doubt was leading to, you know, those interactions and me being like, this is just not enough, right? This is not close enough to the outcome that I want. And so I would freak out and I would pressure her, or I would, you know, express my insecurity. And guys, the energy that you give out is the energy that you're going to get back. And so while I was trying to get her back, what was happening was I was more putting out desperate energy than anything else. And so things were, you know, continuing to get worse and worse and worse. And it was by me pushing and pushing and pushing and trying to externally change things to make things the way that I wanted to see them. So all that being said, what ultimately happened was, you know, I failed. After about 1.5 years of me really trying to specifically manifest this woman back, I decided, you know what I really want is, you know, a committed relationship where I feel, you know, XYZ, fulfilled, this and that. And so that's what I'm going to try to manifest. And so I basically wiped the slate clean and said, I'm going to try again, and I'm going to try to manifest a new person. And so what ended up happening was, like I said, I practiced the Bob Proctor technique. I really tried to very specifically push away all energy of this, you know, previous woman that I had really been intending to be with again. And I started talking to a lot of other girls. I started getting kind of other girls coming into my space. I was having conversations with them, you know, via Twitter, via Instagram, and some of them I was meeting up in person and kind of going on like little dates or whatever. But I was just putting that energy out, like, hey, I'm intending to have a new partner in my space. And then I came across that Bob Proctor technique, so I tried it. So I drew a circle and I drew all these arms of like a bunch of different things that I wanted. Strangely enough, not even 2 months later, I think it was 1 month later, I got a DM on Twitter from a woman, and she lived in California. And so she, she was vegan just like me. She was very socially conscious, very liberation focused just like I am. And we ended up having a lot of really interesting conversations. And she, we joked back and forth about how, I was going to come to California at some point. But what ended up happening was she came to Connecticut, which is not too far from where I live in Baltimore, and she was willing to Uber halfway between where I lived and where she was staying, and then I drove and I picked her up, and she came and stayed with me in Baltimore for 3 weeks, and it was insane. It was really magical, and she had the exact qualities that I looked for. Physically, she was exactly the kind of person that I had, visualized and asked the universe to bring to me. What I really believe is asking my subconscious mind to bring to me. And it was insane. And we had a really magical time while she was here. She went back to California for a month, and then the next month I went and visited her in California for 3 weeks. And it was a really magical relationship. What I realized though was that a lot of those past issues that I had were still there. That need to control, that feeling of, another person not being exactly as I wanted them to be. And so me feeling like I needed to manipulate the external world or use, mental and emotional tactics almost to, bring her to where I wanted her to be. And the reality was that what she was telling me was that she was not prepared to be in a committed relationship. And there was a lot of reasons for that. She had just gotten out of a fairly abusive relationship, not even like a month before we started talking, which, I think was kind of her failure for reaching out to me, but I think it was like, there was a lot of reasons. I think she probably was like lusting a little bit, maybe just thought I was pretty interesting, just giving something a try. You can't blame her. And also, it's my subconscious doubts that got in the way and created this situation where she felt like whatever the reason is, I'm not ready to commit to this guy. And so that kind of freaked me out, and it led me on this spiral where I just started realizing a lot of her flaws, and I started like focusing on those, and I started having more of these fights in my own mind. And lo and behold, a couple weeks after I got back from California, and I had gone from California to Colorado and camped for a while and then come back to Baltimore. But after about 2 weeks of me being home, she basically called me one day and broke up with me. And I was really, really hurt. But what happened was, at this point, I had been practicing manifestation for a while. I'd been practicing manifestation techniques, and I was able to manifest her back. And here's kind of what happened was, after a few days of me really being down in the dumps, I just kind of decided that I was perfect for her. Like I decided I am beyond the right man for her. Like I have all of the exact qualities that would really be beneficial for her. I am just, a gift, and she made a huge mistake, and she's going to realize this mistake, and I'm not worried about it at all. And I just kept telling myself this story of, she's going to come back to me with a vengeance. Like she's going to come back with a passion. Like she really is going to want me again. And, this and this and this. And I, practiced no contact. I was very deliberate about no contact. And it got to the point where she really pushed me to talk to her. And so I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm going to have a conversation with her. But in all of these things, right, I was still perceiving all of these little communication issues. I was still perceiving all of these flaws that she had, like her really poor communication, inability to really have a sense of compassion for the other person. All of these things I was perceiving in her, and I was still trying to manifest through that. I was manifesting her with those things in play, right? Saying like, oh, she's going to come back, but she's too dumb to do it right, or like she's, just too inconsiderate, and me kind of making fun of her in my mind in these different ways. And we got back together. We ultimately did get back together. However, we got back together, but the relationship was trash. I mean, it was just so tense. Like I was constantly wanting more from her. She was constantly telling me she couldn't deliver. And I was just trying through what was actually happening outside. And so all of this, I say this just to tell you guys that as you believe, so it shall be done unto you. With unequivocal belief on my part, as you believe, so shall it be done unto you. And so the story that I told myself was the story that manifested every time. When she broke up with me, the story that I was telling myself in the weeks prior were all of the problems, all of the issues, me asking myself, is this really the person that I want to be with? And then boom, she shows up and says that, there's all these issues that we have. I'm just not, I can't do this with you, blibbity blah. And then while I was manifesting her back, I was still repeating those same flaws, but telling myself that I am the perfect person for her, almost as though I'm on this pedestal and she, needs to grovel to come to me. And a lot of people teach that, right? A lot of people say like, you're the prize, and they do it in a way that's almost, savage towards the other person, that's slandering the other person, almost putting the other person down. And I think you don't have to do that. You are the creator. You're the one that writes the script. And so if I could go back and do it again, and this is what I'm trying to do right now, I will openly admit that I'm trying to recreate a relationship with a specific person. At very least, find the balance in myself. And that's my main focus right now, is to find that balance in myself, that sense of calm, that sense of clarity, that I can just be good with myself. And I can be somebody that is able to write the story of another person with clarity, with a sense of compassion, and not doing it in a way that is brutal towards them, or subjugating them and exploiting them in some way. I can do it in a way that is bringing forth the most positive, the most self-fulfilled, the most balanced version of that person, because that's what I really want, right? Like, that's what we should want for our specific people, because they are really just a projection of ourselves. And when we tell this story that is kind of mean and kind of enslaving of the other person, bringing them forth, right? You don't want that version of them. You don't want somebody who is dependent on you, or that like worships you to a degree that is, unhealthy on their part. You want them to be happy. You want them to be balanced. And I think about her, and that's what I want for her. I want the best for her. And so right now, my thought process is really trying to formulate that version of her in my mind that is abundant, that is taken care of, that is calm, that is happy, that is, fulfilled in every way. And I believe that if I can do that first, then it's going to be a lot easier to bring her forth as my partner, because I am not, I'm not like I said, I'm not enslaving her. I am bringing her forth as the best version, because that's what I want long term, right? I want somebody who's balanced and happy and fulfilled, and I can and can be a good supporter for me, really. And so we have that kind of balance in our relationship. So the main takeaways that I have from all of these situations are really the fundamentals when it comes to manifesting anything, really, right? It's intending, and then it's allowing. And that's what I really failed to do. I set the intentions, but I was so hooked onto the need to make things happen, the need to continuously affirm and continuously visualize and continuously, dial myself into this outcome, as though letting go of it would make something else happen. And I've proved to myself over and over and over again that the only way that other things happen are by you directly intending on other things to happen. If you deliberately decide this is too challenging, I need to manifest somebody else. Well, if I could go back, what I would really do is have more faith in myself, have more faith in the universe, and just allow it to be. Just allow it to be. All you have to do is intend and allow, and it will happen. And especially with the specific person example, a lot of people find it really challenging, and they just need to manipulate. But that's what I realized was my failure with all of this stuff, was just me feeling like I wasn't able to just let go and allow things to happen. And so that's my story, you guys. I hope this was helpful. I hope that you guys can take some things away from this. Just know that you have the power to do, be, and have anything that you want. Have that mental conversation with yourself. Allow yourself to feel your feelings, but just remind yourself that by letting go and allowing and feeling good and knowing that you are on the journey, and everything that's happening in your own mind, everything that's happening in your own spirit is part of you realizing the best version of yourself. And so affirm that, guys. Affirm that you are a great being. Affirm that you can have anything that you want. And just by allowing yourself, loving yourself, focusing on, increasing your positive characteristics, affirming the benefits that you have within yourself, you're going to feel a lot better, and it's going to be a lot easier for you to focus on positive outcomes. Just allow things to happen, guys. Have faith in yourselves. You can have this. This is something that you can do. In all that you do, persist, guys, and believe, and it will be done unto you. I hope this video was helpful. comment below, let me know your story, subscribe to my channel, hit that little notification bell so you know when videos come out, and without further ado, I hope you have a great day. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.